Hi, and welcome back to the Health, Weight Loss, and Wellness Show. And today we have a very special speaker, Kate Milne. Let me tell you about Kate. She's the founder of Age Sister, a company dedicated to providing midlife women cutting edge, evidence based, I love that, information and programs to help them have their best second act. I also love that. As a clinical exercise physiologist, she has devoted her entire career to helping people improve their health. In fact, she started working in healthy living almost 30 years ago. We are so lucky to have this expertise today. And for the past 17 years, she's worked exclusively with older adults. Age Sister is a culmination of her research, teaching, and work to help women like you get stronger, feel more confident, and stay in control of your health as you get older. Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited to get into this topic with you.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a really lovely introduction.
You're welcome. You deserve it. It's a lot of hard work there. You've had a really interesting story about how you got into physiology. So I'm curious about that. Do you want to share?
Sure. So, I probably have a bit of a different career path to most people in my field. A lot of people who work as exercise physiologists work with athletes and they work in clinical settings. But I really have worked in the community since the beginning. And I guess there's kind of a two-part path to my story. When I started working years and years ago, I was working with folks who had really difficult to manage chronic illness. And a lot of them had mental health issues at the same time. So health conditions and mental health conditions, so physical conditions as well. And so just really people who were struggling. And it was a really rewarding career for a good just over a decade. Really enjoyed it, but I really wanted to work with folks in a way that was more preventative. I wanted to put my time into helping people prevent some of those things before they began. And in my own life, my mother, who was a lovely woman and a wonderful mother, her life was cut short by her lifestyle. And the last 15 years of her life was really, really tough. She had a lot of disability. She had a lot of illness. And we watched her suffer during that time. And what's amazing to me when I look back at that is that she was my age when it started.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really amazing how quickly some of those progressions in our health can go downhill, unfortunately. And that's not to scare anybody, but just to say that, it is amazing the change that happens at midlife. And, a lot of this stuff that happens, not all of it, but a lot of it is pretty preventable. There's things that we can do. And so when I left working in a rehab setting, I started working with older adults. And I've been doing that, as you mentioned, for about the last 17 years. Always usually working with people kind of in their 8th decade, some in their 9th decade, some over 100. And I, again, noticed this pattern that people age really differently. Some people, are hiking 5 days a week, and some people are on walkers. And I was really lucky to be involved in some research around this, a multi-year research project working with women in midlife. And it just was so profound, these small lifestyle changes and what a difference it made to the health of these women. And it inspired me to create this product, Age Sister, to try to help women at this midlife time when we're doing so much. We have so many responsibilities and so many balls in the air. But I wanted to help in a way that was just, these kind of snack size, small lifestyle changes. So yeah, it's a different path in exercise physiology, but exercise and physical activity is really at the core.
Man, that's great because one of the reasons why we're doing this show is because there's not a lot of content out there or programs for people 40 plus. we're not represented in magazines and movies much, and catwalks, and especially as we get older, like you said, we can quickly go downhill. And I feel like a lot of clients that I see can start sensing that, and they can sensing that, and they're worried about, if I don't do something now, how am I going to be later on? And they really want to enjoy this time now. So if we look at your expertise and ask the question, if I really wanted to say we're struggling, right? And if we could use me as an example, I've had a back injury for so long now, and I'm trying all these different things, excuse me, and they don't seem to be working. So if you've got an injury or you're concerned about your health moving forward, what would you suggest to do? What would be your strategy?
Well, Jody, I'm going to be biased in this direction, but there's not really a pill or a product or anything that has the volumes and volumes and volumes of research and support that exercise and physical activity does. I mean, it's just so important for our mental health, our physical health, for managing our weight, for keeping us mobile. I could go on and on. But my message is really maybe different than just this idea of structured exercise. I wouldn't say you have to get to the gym this number of days a week and you have to do this number of minutes of exercise. Yes, absolutely. We have all of those recommendations in place. Unfortunately, we're not helping people to meet those recommendations because I think it's such a big leap to get there for most people. And like you said, a lot of women in midlife have chronic pain conditions, they have injuries, they have time limitations. So I think if I was to say what is the one message, and really is the core message of Age Sister, is helping women just to move more. And that means breaking up your sitting time. If you think about how much sitting we have done during this pandemic, I mean, we were sitting a lot before, but we are sitting more than ever now. And nobody can blame us. I mean, that's just the result of, what's happened with quarantine and lockdown. But I think when women are thinking about this transition out of the pandemic and what do I do now? I feel like I've lost some of my fitness. I feel like my health is not as good. Maybe my confidence is a little bit lower. Maybe rather than, you and I have talked about this before, this January people, right? That in January, the gyms open up, they fill up, and, for 3 weeks, you have this totally full gym, and then they empty out. And part of that is because people are trying to do so much at once. And I think rather than trying to go all the way there, let's think about just moving more. Let's start there rather than that whole scale change. So with someone like you, if you're struggling with a back injury, part of what's probably contributing to some of your pain during the day is a lot of time seated. And you can't help that. Your job requires you to be in front of a computer.
Yep.
But to change that up, you could think about just breaking up that sitting time every 30 minutes, just getting up out of your chair, putting on an alarm that just reminds you, hey, I've got to get up. I've just got to move a little and do that throughout the day. And you would be amazed at the difference that makes. I think a lot of women would maybe brush that off and they think, well, no, I have to be doing that 30 minutes of cardiovascular activity, but no, just moving more throughout the day really can make a huge difference.
Yeah. And I think we had this, I remember us having this conversation because there was a doctor, and I still can't remember what her qualification is, but she was a metabolism expert, and she was saying the same thing. Like if you move your body more rather than exercise, it doesn't affect your metabolism in a way that you'll have to eat more. So it's a really good method, and you would have seen all that science and research and data around that. And so, and from our conversation, I ended up breaking up my yoga throughout the day and setting a reminder every 2 hours. And since then, I think I've only missed a couple of movements. There's a few days where I wasn't well and sort of didn't move much, and I noticed the difference. So, I implemented that straight away. I'm like, I'm going to do that. So I'm doing it every 2 hours, but every half an hour, I think, I might get to every 1 hour and then every half an hour, because I find that I will just go snooze and keep
Yeah,
working. So
I
you
hear
really
you.
do have to commit. Can you give us an example? So that's, me, but can you give us an example of maybe that people listening at home can relate? And I hope you wrote that in your journals while you're listening, for those who are listening. Can you give us an example of somebody who, I guess, wasn't moving as much, and how they implemented your program and what the results were for them, just so we can instill a little bit of motivation here?
Sure, sure. So absolutely. I mean, that exercise piece is still important. So this client that I was working with, the goal was to help her with the structured exercise as well, but to start out with just that bit of movement. And she said this idea really stuck with her. And so here's a woman who's a really high level executive, really busy life, couple of kids, a million things going on. And she said she'd really noticed that she'd gained some weight around her middle during the pandemic. And she was really thinking, wow, this is kind of surprising, because she's not a woman that normally would gain weight, but she was gaining it in this one area. And so she started to move more. She added on a 10-minute walk, because that would be the other piece that I would say is, even if you can just get in 10 minutes, go out for a walk after a meal, any meal during the day. It doesn't have to be after dinner. And so she implemented those two things, just getting up and moving more. And like you, it wasn't necessarily always every 30 minutes. Sometimes it was every hour. And she found that weight came back off. So just a really simple lifestyle change, and I can't guarantee weight loss from it, but in this woman's case, definitely it made a difference. Just moving that little bit more throughout the day, it adds up.
Yeah, and it does add up. Excuse me. What I like about that is it's not adding any extra stress on your body. And I find that, sometimes we get to this age and we're going through perimenopause and menopause, and stress comes on sometimes easier, or anxiety. So I find that it's just, excuse me, a lot easier to manage, and small, simple movements, like you said, has made a massive difference to me already, and I feel good because I'm sticking to it, right? So, and I feel like you're really onto something here. Well, you've been doing it for a long time, so it's not like it's anything new for you, but for us, I hope everyone's, thoroughly writing some notes and having a think about ways that you can add bits of movement in your life. Now, say we want to like supercharge our health right now, or our wellness, and really get that movement going and feeling better in our body. What would be your one go-to piece of advice?
Yeah, I think we have to be kind to ourselves. I think as women, we have a lot of things that we have to give up, right? We have to give up all sorts of things. We have to give up time. If we're trying to make changes in our health, sometimes we're giving up foods that we enjoy. Like, we really, especially as women in midlife, we have a lot of things that we are sacrificing to have the lives that we have. And I would say, for me, supercharging would mean taking a step back and thinking about, how can we set the bar lower so we have a whole bunch of wins? We need to gain some things. We need to have wins that are over and over again. Part of that is making sure that we're recording what we're doing, just so we can be reminded, hey, I actually did pretty well today, right? I actually did get up and do my yoga moves, 6 times today, and that adds up to something important. It's easy to dismiss what we're doing as something that's too small. And I guess because my life's goal is to have people be physically active across the whole lifespan, that I would say, that supercharging means just having that as I said, just pull it back, small wins, so we can make this an ongoing habit. I want women to take away that idea of motivation or laziness. It's not about motivation. It's not about being lazy. It's just that we haven't developed certain habits. I exercise, 5 or 6 days a week consistently. It's not because I'm motivated. I don't have a special skill, but I've created just some habits that help me to do that. And I never really have to think about it. I never in the same way that I would get into the car and put on my seatbelt. I never have to have a battle with myself to put on my seatbelt. I just do it because it's a habit. I get in the car, right? And we can make physical activity the same thing with the right strategies.
Yeah, definitely. And when something becomes automatic, I 100% agree. And it's stuff that I help people do with hypnosis as well, is create those automatic habits. And when you don't think about it, when it's something you automatically do, like, everybody gets out the shower and dries themselves exactly the same way without thinking. Wash ourselves the same way as well without thinking. And if you can, like you said, make movement the same sort of thing every time you get up from your desk, you do a full body stretch. And then if you can make that automatic, you're automatically doing that without thinking. It doesn't add that stress to your day. So I think these are just amazing strategies. And I really appreciate you coming and giving us your time and telling us all about this. And I just feel like it's so important what your message is. It's really so important, because I feel like a lot of women, especially our age, feel like, oh, I have to go and do that whole gym thing. And I've done that before and I loved that. And I did extreme sports and things like that. And I feel like I've just, that I don't want to do that anymore. I want to do something new. So it's so great to have this refreshing talk about it. You don't have to keep doing that. You can do other things as well that is really going to help you feel better. And I think that's what we want. And if we do it now and start now, then we're going to have a better second half of our life and really get the most out of living. Like you said, there's people that are hiking later on in life and people are on a walker. And I think I want to be the hiker. I think about if I want to go traveling and there's a castle on the top of the hill, or castle, depending on where you're from. If there's a castle on the top of the hill and I want to go up, I want to be able to walk up the hill and go in and explore. And so I think about those things. Or, if we go back to Paris, I want to be able to walk the whole place and not have pain. So, I think about those things as my motivator. But like you said, if you create those habits every day, you're going to be able to do these things when you have time in your later life, just making these small changes today. So really, it's such an important message, and I'm so glad that you're here and part of the show. So thank you so much for your time today. Now, you've got a special gift for everybody. Tell us about that.
I do. So I have a free course. It's just a really short, actionable course that women can use to change 4 different areas in their life. So I'm talking about physical health, so a bit more strategy around movement, brain health, on strength, and then also on stress reduction. So again, with really snack size, small things that we can put in throughout the day in order to make some of those changes. And then, if you wanted down the road to get into something, maybe you wanted to go back to doing some of those sports that you were doing, this is that stepping stone to help you get there, or just to help you stay active. It can be either.
Yeah, what a generous offer. I'm really, I'm so excited. I'm going to be doing that myself. So I know that there'll be some of the people in my group as well that all want to do that too. So I can't wait. And if you're watching this on YouTube or on Facebook and you're not registered for the event, make sure that you register, go to our website, and we'll make sure we put the link in this as well, and register, because on the speakers page there'll be a link to that to that free gift. So make sure that you do register so you can take advantage of that. So thank you so much for being here today and sharing this really important message around movement. And I can't wait to get into that program myself. I will definitely be doing it. You'll be seeing me in there. And thanks again for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.